Hello all and welcome. I'm your not so humble game master TJ, and this is Dice of Ages presenting CrestVahllen, the Argent Flame forged in chaos. Yes, I did that right there. Cool. Everybody, thank you guys for joining us. Welcome back. Let's. Oh, you know what? Say hi, my little sputters.
Hi, little sputters.
No.
Sputters.
Sputters?
Embers.
I was going to say like
Embers?
I did Embers last time, didn't I?
I
No.
maybe.
No idea.
Also,
you have to change it up every time?
Argus his nickname is Little Embers. If I say the Little Embers, you know, all y'all think you get a little special, and the Firebeard,
The
Mama
Argent,
eyes, and she has only one eye for her daughter.
We know for a fact that we are not. We set her house on fire. Well, I'm sorry. Lahg set her house on fire, and I made it worse. So I know we aren't. We definitely aren't. You know,
And
special in her
then
eyes.
we put it out. Even worse.
Sputters is, yeah, sure.
I mean, Sputters
Hi,
is
little
sure.
Sputters.
All right,
I mean,
we'll go
Sparks could work
Let's
just
go
as
on the
easily
table
for that,
real
too.
quick and introduce yourself and all that jazz.
Okay, cool. I'm Noelle. Today I'm playing Thresheni Ankmut, the Ma'itan, jackal kind of weapon dancing cool wizard. Cool-ish. And, you know, I just want to say that nobody knows how to dance the worm like me.
I'm Kevin. I play Cole Vodison, our little weird bard sorcerer, and can't wait to use my new weapon. You know, just so I can whip it good.
Yes.
I am Cody, and I play our bugbear warlock, Log Jammin'. You know, they say that a wish is a monkey's paw, and I never really knew what that meant, but now I think I do, because now the monkey paw is in my head, and it looks like it's ready to do some fisting.
Oh, good God. Can we get a list? Can we get a list of all? Oh my goodness!
I think we just need a take.
Do you? I have a question. Do you practice these in the mirror?
Not in the mirror, no.
Okay, but you do practice them. You do.
Well, yeah, you have to
so
get the
you
timing.
do say them
You have
out
to-
loud.
You have to get the timing just right.
Okay, but you do say them out loud before you do it live.
So-
right?
so what-
So you
what
do
I'm-
hear what it is that you're saying before.
So
you
what I'm hearing
that's
is
the point.
that we need to put in a special
you say
scene
fisting out
for when
loud
we're.
before.
So we do. So
It's
what I'm
like-
hearing is
like
we need
it's
to
punching like fist.
put it
Like
in a scene.
what are you thinking?
Okay.
For when Cody's saying, for Cody's intro that says NSFW, NSFW.
So I understand, because when you say it out loud, you're Log. You're not Cody.
You have to get from wish to fisting.
You method
and
act your
so
intros.
wish, monkey paw, fisting. You have to do the whole journey.
Right. It's a journey. So it's definitely
It's always
a
a
journey.
journey interesting.
Go ahead, please. Please put me out of my misery.
Let's just sit in uncomfortable silence for a second.
No, don't do that to me.
I'm Adam. I play Zemdak Flint Sweeper, otherwise known as Boots or Gizmo or Dumbass. The group's gnome artificer and resident chaos creator.
After the last one, I think your name is.
It's also slightly unconfirmed, but I'm pretty much sure I'm at least half fun guy. So
I mean,
Yeah, you have
call you
some
cheese
in
grater
don't you?
face with your most recent epic.
Oh right, yeah, you have some fucking gnarly scars now. Okay, cool. So, not many announcements for you guys. We're just, doing some stuff, trying to improve our live and lighting and all that jazz. But other than that, thanks for sticking with us. We're moving some stuff around, and hopefully, and if you get a chance, you should check out our print shop, Prince of Ages, on Etsy. Go ahead and check it out. You can find some of the cool stuff that we use here, and even hand paint some stuff for you. So go ahead and check that out, and it'll help support the stream and everything that we do here. So thanks a bunch. Okay, cool. So other than that, let's just get right into it. You guys want to play a game?
Hell yeah.
Cool. Let's just do then right into the recap of what happened last whole session. Like the last 3 episodes, and we will get going with that then. Right. So, Cole, Ermgrim, and Argus stand in awe before the High Immolate, who, though hunched, towers over even the lithe Northman. A discourse of philosophical debate follows as the two Auburn minds spar. Faith and fact contend for priority, leading to questions concerning the origins of the Keeper's power. The bard chronicles the rare duologue, his warnings muffled by the air of prominence. Transforming Urgrim's plasma blade into an impossibly hotter white, and unharmed by the molten rock, the androgynous humanoid queries the dedication to having eyes be open and renouncing their ties. Argus claims he is not yet ready to become the chaos of energy, but learns he is but a piece of an existence yet reborn, a whole yet to be purified, tainted by its desire to survive and to thrive. Staring into the river of magma, Argus extends a hand but for a moment before recoiling, then turning on his heels and marching back up the tunnels. After perusing the jobs board and pondering his puppet, the pensive dwarf focuses his energy on meditative forging and blacksmithing. Meanwhile, Zemdak concentrates his efforts on fashioning a brooch that would ward the mind as the day approaches its weary end. The 37th of Hylock begins with much of the party completing errands for coin, as well as shoring up defenses and composing preparations. News is disseminated that the Maw has had a jarring change in its power structure, ignited by a religious group fundamentally devoted to the worship of the ancient sovereign of sand. An embargo and blockade has followed, cutting off the Razor Fang from the Maw, as the once current Primarch of Babas has fled the city, their whereabouts unknown, with the southern and eastern routes in and out of the Razor Fang now barred. The agreement's economy, industry, and more is under unsustainable strain. Serendipitously, Lord Ehrenbach has come forward as a benefactor to aid in alleviating the nation's burden, as his occupation of the soon-to-be vacant triumvirate seat seems likely. A day and more passes as the gang prepare to leave for the underground near the Moravian capital, hoping to travel via Worm. After checking in with Onkeline, the band departs Steercrag for the deep under the 39th, setting up in areas along the way to wishfully saddle a worm. Through dance and bass-heavy tremors, the troupe succeeds in attracting a number of variations of subterranean annelids, both swarm and slimy, but none yet suited for their current purpose. Eventually, an adequate volunteer emerges, and once tamed and its pellet collected, transports the party with helpful expediency. At night, Lahg's dream space is void, and he's greeted by the familiar tome of a lectern. Visions of a scoop and light blue-skinned aquatic individual and tendrilled mass pierce the bugbear's mind. But the Dreamweaver's hearkens a voice of vicious words. I can see you, brother. Welcome back to CrestVahllen. Yeah. Lahg. Hey, get loud. All right. So, to paint the picture for you for where you are right now, because we're going to go back into Lahg's dream space after what has happened is currently happening. You heard this squelching voice, and it requested like a wish from you, something that you wanted, and you obliged, asking for the traitor. You saw those visions of a scoop. You saw these visions of this blue-skinned aquatic individual, some tendrilled mass that pierces your mind. You feel the crushing pressure upon the realm of the dream realm itself, as well as this oppressive gaze of these odd abscesses that have coalesced into spinning orbs within the darkness. And you see, or you hear, just kind of all around you and within your bones even, I can see you, brother. What do you do?
So, because this is my dreamscape,
Yeah.
how real does this? Does this feel like something I've manifested, or does this, like, when the idol was in my mind trying to escape, does it feel more like that?
This is a very good question. I'd say it's very hard to tell the type of thing. What you do what you do recognize is that you're not in the little space that you have created your own little town. You started creating your own little town in. You're in that space when you still, it's like the still type of landscape where it has that like thing, like little 2 or inch or 2 inches of water along some sort of just black, no source of light, but you can see everything's pretty brightly lit, but there's just nothing as far as the eye can see, just blackness and water. And you're still in that space. But what had happened is that you had like made the lectern had come up, and you'd seen that once, like a couple times before. Like, yes, when the eldritch thing like came out or tried to come out, and you got like trapped in there when you were like in that comatose state. I would say the environment feels similar, familiar, the same, but I believe if we remember correctly, you kind of like started to fall through the water. Whereas like almost like the ground from the water became to go lower, where the level of the water continued to stay the same. So it was like the water was rising in the entire realm, and you felt like you were underwater, but you couldn't really like see water. It just felt like you were in it. And at that point, you doesn't seem like you're having trouble breathing or anything like that. Like you don't need to breathe, or maybe your instinct is telling you to, but it's not really. If you like open your mouth, it doesn't seem like your lungs are intaking any air or anything like that. It's more of just an instinctual kind of reaction. And that's when you've seen these abscesses. As far as you being in the same space where you feel like this is something that you can control, you can absolutely make an attempt. You are in, as far as you can understand, some sort of dream realm, some sort of subconscious or unconscious state in which you have become aware. It does feel real, like you feel the coldness of, like the freezing coldness of liquid up against your skin as you're kind of like treading water there for a moment. Every once in a while you can see maybe some bubbles from your movement and like exiting your nostrils, and just the depth perception is unable to be really zoned in on, just because it's all dark. It's all just one thing. So it's really hard to tell how big something is and how far away it is when you see these abscesses and these tendrils. You can make an attempt to try to control something if that is your intention. I would say it's very, very hard to tell from just feeling what is, if you have control over this or not. One thing I will say is that you have that predator and prey response that you felt before. You feel like prey right now.
Is it still like pulling itself into the space? Or is it
kind of, yeah. Imagine it's there's some sort of pocket in the like an eel in a pocket of like coral or something like that, but you can't see the coral, you can't see the hole, but it's clawing or pulling or tendriling its way out as it's more filling the space more and more and more. So yeah, it is kind of doing that, but you don't know what it's pulling out. It's just dark. It just drops off, and the only thing you can see is the glistening from some movement in those orbs and those abscesses of negative space and gestalt space where you just see. It's almost like the opposite of a silhouette upon darkness. So yeah.
Fuck. I'm gonna look at it.
Look at it.
You're no brother of mine.
So you speak these words, and you feel like so small when you speak these words, as it continues to pull itself out, almost as if it's ignoring you entirely, as it seems to try to like crawl along whatever the top of this realm is and like pull itself closer, as if it's almost trying to travel over you.
I'm gonna try and shut whatever the opening
Like with
is.
your mind?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and roll. This is like a willpower, because you're trying to like will this thing. Usually I had you roll was it like charisma?
Yeah,
or something like
like
that?
normal spell casting.
Yeah, I'll say go ahead and roll your spell casting here. But I will give you the option to, if you want to, just roll like a wisdom check, if depending on which one it is you want to do.
So this brain brooch, is it just saves or is it also checks that I can use it up?
I believe we wrote it down, correct?
For what?
For the brain brooch thing that you made.
Yeah, is it just saves or is it also checks?
Reroll int and wisdom. I didn't say specifically.
It was meant to be a ward, right? So it makes
Yes.
more sense that it would just be
Saves.
saves. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll do a charisma.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, no log, yeah.
13.
13. You do feel like the realm is responding to you. You feel things tighten around the edges of your periphery and like that's start to strain. You know, when you're like really trying hard on something and you're pushing with your abdomen and you're like really constraining, and your ears start to do that kind of like white noise when you are in like when you put your ear to a seashell and everything, and you get that, you start to hear like the blood that's flowing through your ear canal, and it focuses in because you're tightening the parts of your eardrum. You can hear that, and as your periphery starts to go further and tighten further in, like you're almost losing consciousness or getting close to it. You're straining really, really hard. You almost feel yourself sweating even though you're surrounded by liquid, or it feels like you're surrounded by liquid. You do feel like it's responding as you're trying to squeeze like an iris, this whatever this hole or pocket this thing is coming out of. It does seem to slow and respond, and for a moment like slow and then kind of jerk and react, and finally actually they weren't ever, these abscesses, whatever they happen to be, eyes or whatever, weren't ever really directed at you. They were just kind of directed beyond you, but now for the first time it appears to notice you. As it kind of like looks down almost from above you now, from who knows what it's clinging into. You can't really see anything. And then it just kind of, again, in your bones, you just hear and feel your pet, I presume.
Fuck. Fuck. I'm gonna try and I'm gonna try and make this water that like rose up. I'm gonna
Sure.
try and like flush it, like try and.
Okay, you want to like pull the cork from the bathtub
Right.
type of deal? Sure. Go ahead, do another one of those things if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay, better. That's a 21.
21. You do see, you do start to feel like the water starts to get warmer, or whatever liquid it is you're surrounded by starts to get warmer, and you do feel that coldness upon your forehead that appears to like travel down, because you can't really see it because it's just so inscrutable as to whether it's the top or if you're just going from salinity to salinity. It's like very, very hard to tell. But you do feel that cold, like when you break the water and the air finally hits your skin, and as like thermodynamics begins to take place, as it begins to travel like a ray down your body, as it appears to be draining, and you feel the full like regular gravity upon your body from those parts that are being cooled. This thing is the best way I can describe it. This thing, this mass that is somewhat perceptive or can see something, hear, feel, is aware of this as you start to see it, the gravity and the weight upon it, really take its full toll upon whatever the mass of this entity is, as parts of it begin to slough off and fall to the ground, and you actually start to see splashes of this thing falling and falling and falling, and it's struggling to stick to the top of this.
I'm going to take my book.
Okay.
I'm going to try and have it eat
One of those pieces?
The stuff that's sloughing off.
Okay, cool. You reach for your book.
Well, I know like that I can summon it here.
You can't. Right. So remember, it was summoned on the lectern,
yeah.
and then you made a wish, and then it flipped and like shut, and stuff happened, and it started like exploded and bust happened. So that was like, I understand you're like trying to summon it from some of the ground. Go ahead, and because like when you're here, you don't really have anything on you except for like the stuff that you usually have on you, like your bags aren't really there. But so you try to summon the book. Go ahead, roll another check for me because this is kind of complex.
That has never been seen.
10. So you feel that when the book kind of like exploded and things came out of it, or like, you know, it created this space, you feel that the book is here. Like you're summoning something that's already here. It's here. You have it. It's with you. But you don't feel it. You don't see it. You don't see it appearing anywhere. And you're starting to get the feeling in with you that like, oh, like it's all around me. I'm in my book.
Book, consume. And I'm still going to try and have
What do
it.
you imagine happens?
Basically, because I think what you said before, there's like musculature like under the wall.
Yeah, there's like a creep, like a musculature creep of like kind of Cronenberg just living
So basically
ground.
that just kind of lifting up and absorb like in
100 little mouths.
Sure, yeah.
but yeah, just that kind of musculature just kind of coming up and then just
engulfing and devouring it. Sure, sure. Yeah, like roots fastly growing on top of things, but muscles and viscera grabbing onto things, and sure. As the water begins to completely drain, as far as whatever liquid it happened to be, you are able to see what seems to be like small geysers. Some of these pieces of this mass, of this entity has fallen and seem to be like undulating and moving and sometimes like inchworming across the ground. And you see small little springs, little tiny geysers of what looks like this thick black ichor that appear to peer around the space that with them do that whole evolution thing from that movie Evolution, where like when you give it heat, it like and it like evolves really, really fast and it grows super, super fast. So this creep appears to this ichor appears to be feeding the creep, and it's like in liquid form as though it were spores, where this creep is like growing, and it begins to spread from these geysers like they are producing like seeds for this thing to continue. And there's like 7 or 8 of these guys all around the place, and they pop up near where these things are moving around. And as the creep gets and starts to grow around this thing, it then grows up and starts to eat some of them. You can see the space, the creep devouring several of these little pieces. You then also see where the creep has devoured these pieces, the creep begin to like decay and like turn like sour, and the creep doesn't seem to like it as you hear it come some like squelching and screeching and like types of noises as it like willfully, like a wolf gnawing off its leg it's caught in a trap, snaps itself free of those parts, lets it decay until it becomes hard, like almost a cocoon made of stone, in that way, of this like dark or metal black stone. You can't really tell what it is, if there's stone or if it's metal.
does it look like what the idol is made out of?
It absolutely does look what the idol is made out of, as the creep kind of detaches itself and makes like a prison for this thing that it's unable to really like fully devour but can only contain. You see that this thing now, even more abscesses, whether they be eyes or something or sensors, begin to turn and look at you and look at it as what you're doing, as it appears to now, seeing as it has so much more gravity on it, crawl down the sides of who knows what the dimensions of this. You don't see an actual side. You see it go off forever, but it apparently seems to be creating its own leverage upon invisible walls in the space, and is like... And just to kind of give you an idea as the size of this thing, it's really hard to tell because you don't have perspective. This thing could be the size of the Great Pyramids or the size of like a large biplane. Like you can't really tell just because of perspective. And that's kind of like part of it too, almost like it's doing that on purpose. As it pulls itself down and begins to kind of like hit the corner where it's hitting the ground. And it speaks again. You feel it in your bones. Not entirely useless. Have you learned, taught? What are you of this space?
And now it feels like it's actually talking to me and
It's
not
talking to you.
past me. Here, I am God. And I'm going to try and just contain all of it.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and roll another one here. Give me that tower for this baby here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do-do-do.
All right. New zinc dice. So that's going to be a 16 total.
16. The geysers push like Yellowstone, and Old Faithful begin to push harder, more liquid bursting out of them. You feel the area of the ground that's cracked begin to expand as more pressure creates this thing to have to expand the size of its iris because the pressure is insatiable as more ichor begins to splurt up, and you hear the sound of it splatting on the ground like thick jelly. And the creep begins to work and move and travel super, super fast as you can see these veins and muscles wrap around each other and twist and braid and try to make the way towards this thing. It begins to grab onto the tendrils and spiral up its extrusions. As you can see, it's starting to be contained and grappled and chained by this entity. It looks like you have this thing on the ropes. It's starting to have pieces of it held and pulled, and you see less of the black mass and more of the creep in that area, replacing the absence of space at which it then had allocated and what's the word I'm looking for? Occupied. The eyes kind of turn up and roll and look past you, at you, before you, and you just hear a This might be the best fun I've had in millennia. As it begins to be pulled down into the creep, parts of the creep begin to snap off as it begins to harden and turn to black stone, or turns into this like brown that then turns black like it's charred. And more creep start to surround it, and trying to hit the core of this thing. And you see the core almost like dissolve into itself, like get like a starfish eats its own stomach, or like lets it go and then eats its own and then pushes it out again, as a part just kind of jettisons away from the mass as the creeper trying to trap it, and attaches to another part of the wall, much smaller now. Now only a few abscesses that look past you, and just kind of look around at the space in general. More of the creep now changing direction, trying to follow it. We shall meet again. I look forward to having a family chat. As you see it kind of get sucked into part of like the side of the wall, as if there was a wall at all. It just gets sucked into space, like it just collapses into much smaller and gets siphoned as though there were a drain in the middle of space. And through that drain, not only does this mass pass through, but so does the space itself. Almost as if the space very like cartoonish, as if it were a piece of paper that was being animated, that is being sucked through a small, and you can see the crimples of just like the fabric of space, and your vision itself begins to crease and crimple as though it were paper or cotton or fabric, and get sucked into this moment as around the corners the fabric of existence begins to get pulled and warped and just turned as to be sucked through the eye of a needle, and you like feel yourself being pulled and twisted and turned as if your mind and your body was being spiraled and stretched and pulled through this moment until extreme pain, torment, and then nothing. You awake. You feel heavier. Like mass-wise, you feel somewhat heavier. You look, as you sit up, you look and you kind of check yourself. Begin to stand up and you realize that this feels like your feet are asleep. Like they feel like kind of like that piece of wood or stone, because they don't have like that numbness and everything, and you try to like shake it off and get that numbness out, shake it. And one of your feet is just not waking up, just feels that still super, super weird.
I'll take my boot off.
Take your boot off. It looks like frostbite on your foot, but it's not frostbite, it's like the same ore that the Eldritch idols are made out of. That is like that has engulfed most of your toes and is like part of the top of your metatarsals. It's moving up, it hasn't quite reached your ankle yet, encased most of your heel. You tried to like move your toes and they do respond, but they kind of like the sound of if a stone golem was moving its digits, and you don't feel from them. Just like when your leg is asleep or your foot is asleep or your arm is asleep, you can still move them and it just feels like super uncomfortable, but you don't get the feedback of feeling sensation from them. Like phantom limb feeling.
Right. Well, fuck. Put my boot back on. Anyone else awake?
You look around and you see this large purple worm that's like kind of coiled in like a big crescent, slightly, and almost like a French curve in the area, and you kind of set up camp near the part of that curl-tailed. You don't see anybody else that appears to be awake at the moment, no. You are at the moment alone with your thoughts. Everyone seems to be asleep. Even Ermgrim seems to be asleep. You feel it's been a while since you felt alone. The loneliest you ever felt was in the mines. And ever since you made your deal, it's never felt like you were alone. You always had some sort of dark passenger along with, whether it be metaphysical, theoretical, or figurative. At the moment, your mind is like calm. I don't mean like calm as in like at peace, enlightened. I mean calm as in like unnervingly quiet. There is no race of thoughts. There is no feeling of another presence. You feel cut off or alone.
In a safe spot to do so, I'm going to try and create bonfire.
Try to create bonfire, you reach out your hand, and nothing happens.
Fuck.
You feel this like, as you do so, sometimes you feel like these those whispers in the back of your head that begin to grow into a cacophony until they kind of manifest into something else. You kind of try to reach for those whispers, but you hear like a deafening silence. You hear that sound again of when you're like pushing something and you're trying really hard, and you can hear that sound in your ears where it's like the sound in your ears of the blood and the muscles moving through your eardrums, but you don't hear the whispers. You don't hear the cacophony of voices. You don't hear any of that. It can't be channeled. It's just you hear your own heartbeat, and that's it.
Slightly panicked, I will try and do a blast somewhere safe to do so.
You reach out and attempt to do a blast. You see that some of the tips of your fingers begin to darken, almost like gangrene, for a moment before they become reflushed. No blast emanates from your hand.
Fuck. I just sit down and contemplate.
Sure. You sit down, you think. The rest of you wake up in time.
At some
not too
point, you
long afterward.
realize Conk has been creepily staring at you the whole
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
without moving, just like dead eyes staring at you.
He can't speak.
No, he can just like make a little like tiny, every once in a while, some like clinks and clanks and maybe a beep or two here, and like tss, a little steam comes out, but that's about it.
Shakar saw it too.
Yeah, most likely, yeah, because Shakar does not sleep.
Yeah.
Well, I assume Twig actually got burnt up when I was incinerated, so I'm going to have to summon him at some point. Because he would have been like on my shoulder or whatnot.
Right, because you were in that like that dying star blast,
yeah.
weren't you? Yeah.
So I assume I'm going to have to... So I probably would have done that before he went to bed, actually.
Yeah, it makes sense. You like so it's actually interesting. You, as you're, do you look for them to see if they're here?
Yeah. Like in Moonchild.
Where would Twig be?
So yeah, so it's like in my robe and...
Okay, cool. Like up on your shoulder in your robe, just kind of like right here, something like that. Kind of like a
cloak.
shoulder pad or...
Like cloak or whatever.
Sure. You do look there, and Twig is solid. Like not the ichor that crawls and weird lopsided and everything, like solid, like of the stone that is made of the Eldritch Idol that's kind of like just stuck on you. Looks more ornamental than was something that was ever alive.
And Moonchild?
You look for Moonchild. Okay. You look around. You don't see Moonchild. Roll a perception check.
I don't think I have anything to that. Nope, so 6.
6.
No freaked out, aren't you?
Yeah.
You don't see Moonchild. You don't see any type of wolf around. You have dark vision, and everybody else has dark vision. There's no light here right now. What you do notice is that the copper bracelet that you had the blacksmith made for a while. It was supposed to be in the shape of the river that was like your mother's celestial constellation sign and all that type of thing. It does appear to be giving off just like the faintest glow, like the glow of moonlight.
The way that she would kind of glow during a full moon.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. What's up?
I don't have dark vision, and so
Yeah.
I probably would have light on. Is what I was gonna say.
Right. I mean, like you guys are in the purpose of in the
Yeah,
process
that's-
of waking up. I'm just saying I don't think you guys had light on while you
Oh,
were
okay.
sleeping.
Gotcha. I got you
know?
now.
So
Yeah.
it
God,
was
no.
like dark in the middle of the night, and until you guys really are like ready, like, oh, okay, we're getting our stuff together and we're starting to move, is when you would do a light thing, I imagine. But that's what you notice.
Fuck.
It does feel warm. It feels warm, like it reminds you of the warmth of when you were young and your mother was transformed and she would wrap herself around you in the fur and as you curled up around you and kept you warm on those winter's nights. And just that slow, like, it almost does sound like it's like it feels it gets warm and then tighter and then softer, like it's breathing, just like the breath of a large creature that's like wrapped around you.
I pet it.
You pet it. There is it appears to move a little bit, like on its own. Like it stirs in its space, like the copper just almost as if a snake was traveling along your skin, just ever so slightly begins to curve itself just a little bit and then reset where it was.
We'll figure this out. It's okay.
So the rest of you wake up. You start gathering your things, getting ready for the day. If I'm not incorrect, this would be the 38th, or is it a different day?
40th.
40th.
40th, that's
yeah.
correct. The
It's like
40th.
we just rolled like before we ended last time.
Yeah.
So
So the day is yours. From what I remember from last time as well, you have stopped and made camp as close to where it is near the blockade that you are comfortable being without being too close. I think there were a few days of travel involved in here already, or do you still have more days of travel? Do you still have like 2 or 3 more days? Don't recall.
39th was the first day that we traveled.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you probably have a few more days of travel. I don't think it's quite actually necessary for us to RP to this travel. It's going to be quite mundane. You are traveling in a upon a purple worm, which Ermgrim and a few of other you have trying to get the idea of how to do with, and it's and you're kind of getting enough of a hang of it. Not many things would disturb the path and the travel of a purple worm. So most things move out of the way. Not really too many threats that you're concerned about. The biggest threat is falling off, getting hit by a low-hanging rock while you're moving at a certain speed, those types of things. But we don't need to really discuss too much about what happens with the next, I would say, 2 to 3 days, meaning that we would arrive near as part of the deep under that is as close to where actually Erm's going to ask you, do you want to go to where the blockade starts, or we want to go all the way under the maw and pop up somewhere else? I have to say, the maw is Maresian worms can be 10 times the size of razorfang worms, and they're far more, how do I say, populous. They find their way to the surface a lot more. They're a different type of color. They are listen to the vibrations quite a bit. Big old sandworms that are. It's one of the reasons why the purples don't really go this far. So it would be a lot more dangerous to go all the way there.
Like about the size of like the Matra guy, or?
I wouldn't say about that big, but I'd say, well, maybe. It depends on how old they are. The difference between the Matra guy, or at least razorfang worms and Maresian worms, is that Maresian worms never stop growing. They don't reach a state where they just become full adult and they stop. If they live longer, they just keep growing. So it's possible for ones to be larger than the Matra guy if they're that old. But I mean, they're so dangerous. Not a lot of research has been done. Good luck catching one. So it's an option. It also the deep under the Maresian lands, under the maw, is very, very shallow. It's also very unstable. There are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds of sand that push down upon the deep under, and it's more cavernous and it's known to collapse, which is why there is a lot of quicksand in the maw and some sand cyclones, and it seems to just go on endless. And if we break through and accidentally hit the pocket of sand, we could suffocate, because this thing can't move very well through sand. And there's thousands of feet of sand, if not more, before we hit the surface.
So we would need to go all the way through to the other side of the maw and then work our way back in for where we're going to. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, the way the plates...
And then come out from there.
That's what I'm thinking.
The way the plates work is that the maw is kind of like a bowl. What we see on the surface is that the maw is like flat, or like, has dunes because desert area. But under, it's more like a large bowl that has an immense amount of sand within it. And the closer you get to more like firmer land, like to the north, to the south, to the west, and to the coast, it begins to taper off and come up, so there's less sand, and it becomes more rocky, and it gets closer to firm. So when you get down, so as the sand goes down, the deep under only goes so far until we get to the mantle of the planet, which we can't really travel through. It's like bedrock. We can't travel through it. It's too hard. It gets too hot. I'm sure there's some lava tubes that traveled through it before, but then we have to deal with fire elementals and lava elementals and whatever else might be down there, and there's very little life down there. So the deep under only goes so far, so when you have a bowl that goes this deep, the deep under is quite shallow. And that also means the deep under is very unstable and could collapse, and the bowl could just fill it in. So, which has happened before.
I mean, aren't they different planes? How does that happen?
They are, but I mean, they're connected by physical space as well. Magic is complicated. There is a lot of thought. I mean, I don't know.
I wouldn't think physical weight could break a plane, but I don't know everything.
Well, I mean, it's a pillar of a cave that can collapse under weight. If you can create tears in space in order to go through different planes, you can create tears in space-time in order to go from one place to another within the same plane. All you do is put enough pressure on it magically or otherwise to cause it to tear, cause it to break. This is the same way, just...
Is that kind of how those tunnels that we first traveled through with you kind of got creative, you think?
Yeah, it's pretty much. Imagine the tunnels aren't just through physical space, they're also through metaphysical space. The deep under is folded in on itself in other places, and imagine traveling the inner part of a track if you're racing somebody. Kind of like that, but a little bit more complicated.
Right, so we know the danger is there. The blockade is literally just getting past.
The blockade is a part of the area where the plate or the part of the mountains that then goes down and then part into the maw meets where the beginning of the lip of the bowl begins to start of the maw. So it'd be stable, easier for us to do that. It's just past Donderal a little bit. They had to set up a blockade that wasn't too far into Maresian lands, but also consider it like the foothills of the Razorfang right before it becomes sand, or right after they become sand.
I mean, do we know if they're letting anybody through the blockade, or...
You tell me, I haven't been there.
How many times have you been to the mall?
The mall? Like inside, on top? None. No, not on top. Under, a couple times. Again, not very deep, just along the skirts, because if you go too far, you're going to suffocate. You can't travel through sand. Only the sandworms can, and other creatures.
What I was just thinking is we could always try and talk our way through the blockade. Cole pulls up his badge and goes, you guys could all be my bodyguards going into this dangerous area.
Do you really think the way they're being religious zealots, they're going to care what the bards think?
It's not the religious zealots who set up the blockade. It's the Razorfang who set up the blockade.
Okay.
The zealots. Oh yeah, I don't believe they're gonna do it for a second. But we just need to get through the blockade first. We can deal with the other problems afterwards.
There are subterranean pockets throughout, which is what I've been trying to traverse so far. If we accidentally move into the maw, in some places of like limestone and harder rock and other types of sandy rock that we can get through, but it's nigh impossible to find out where they are. Even my abilities, it's hard to tell. This sand has a lot of interference, so it's very risky because it's like guess and check. And there's also the chance that if you puncture a cavern of limestone, that no matter how big it may go on for miles, it may not. If you do it the wrong way, you could fill it with sand.
Do we know how far the blockade goes? Like, if we were to go around, like obviously they're trying to block like the main, thoroughfares and stuff. But if we go kind of around,
I don't know why you're asking me. You're the one that found out this all and told me. You just brought me along so I could do the thing.
Can we pop out of the side of the mountain?
And yeah, if you want, this king can't fly.
No, I mean,
Well, there are
Not like-
spells for that.
right?
out of the side of the mountain, but
It can fall. It can't fly, but it can fall in
Magical
style.
flying worm.
Yes.
It can
can do this.
fly once.
blockades here, we turn a little bit early and we pop out of the mountain beside the blockade.
I suppose.
Beside
the
the
blockade
entrance.
is, from what you guys told me, the blockade's underground. Along
I
the.
mean, there's got to be like a door from the desert into the mountain.
Hey,
So why don't they just go over it then? And
We pop out like the next valley over or something like that.
the
Trishani, how's the best way we get into the actual...
yeah, you know
Yeah.
actually
Yeah, I mean,
you're the one who's actually been there before. I don't know why we're talking without you.
So technically, I haven't been to Bebas before.
I'm just talking to Ma.
Well, yeah, that I've been
I
to.
thought you were from Bebas.
Well, I was going there, and then things happened.
So where were you from?
Brackstar.
Okay. Way to change your whole backstory.
Look, I was trying to go there. Nobody knows Brackstar, this far west. It's just easier to say Bebas, right?
Is Misheni really your name, or are you just a copy of Misheni?
We clearly have alternating fur patterns here, guys. Not the copy.
So when she was making the clone of herself, she made it a mirror image, is what you're saying.
I mean, it's the best way you can actually clone yourself.
I'm-
You don't see it. So.
I mean, that's
You're just looking in the mirror. Then,
you found us out. No, but yeah. I only know from reading books that I tried finding out a little bit more about Bebas while I was in Solis as much as I could, but it's I was taken away when I was really little, guys. I was only 7, something like that.
That's fair. I
So
don't even remember 7.
7.
It was way too long.
it was only 10 years, but
From what I know about the actually, this is a very good point. If you guys want to roll history checks, you too, if you want to roll history checks, because both of you have spent time in Thulmore Bed.
Natural 20.
There we go. Now everything's a 1 for the rest of the day.
right.
So 24.
24. What'd you get, Zemdak?
10.
10. Yeah, Zemdak probably not too interested about other stuff beyond there.
Sometimes I don't check my
Pretty
dice
self-absorbed. So,
Unless they have magical components for him.
I mean, you were once a mercenary, or traveling, you had to know about stuff, of where things would move. You had to know about trade routes, where to get the best work and that type of thing. Although I don't think you ever actually traversed this area. You know a bit about it because you had
Talk to people who have.
Yeah. And it was, part of your upbringing, and you probably seen it once or twice, and you probably never traveled the length of it. It was something that was constructed. This underground channel, as it were, kind of like the English Channel, was constructed by the Razorfang Agreement to allow easy trade and easy access from the agreement to the Mauritian peoples, specifically, to Babas. This is the capital. It's kind of the jewel of the Maw. Now, it was built through the effort of the agreement. Like dwarves and gnomes and whatever worked together to create a very fortified and reinforced tunnel that they could make of imported material that they made. So there's a bunch, thousands if not millions of pounds of sand upon it that it's artificially been made. It's not a cavern that's been carved out of the stone. No,
What
they
is it
like
built out
they.
of?
It's of like razor fang quarry stone. It's made out of the stone from there. They had to import the stone because limestone's not strong enough for this type of stuff, and it's also hard to find pockets of limestone. Not necessarily hard, but it's dangerous to search for pockets of limestone while you are working underground. And if you puncture the wrong spot, the whole tunnel gets flooded with sand and you're fucked. And people just die. So it was an endeavor that they did to, like make a mine shaft, but a big, kind of like a highway, similar to like, not quite as big as the Triway, but an extension of said one that went through there that was artificially supported by imported materials. So it itself is not native to that part. It is very stable. It is very strong. The part, more than half of it now is not under their control because it went through, most of it goes under Merisian lands. It's never been closed. The Merisians have always been viewed as allies in a way and helpful neighbors. They were once viewed as refugees during the ancient times, and they have always been like, that status never really changed as much. As because it was just archaic, but there's no really point in changing it that much. And there's a profitable relationship for both of them that they do. But now that they have shut that off, there's no telling the state of the rest of the tunnel. There's no telling what's in those tunnels now. There's no telling who's in charge of them or what's going on. There, you've definitely heard chant of like, yes, there are probably some thieving place or some smuggling areas where some other thieves and other, not I want to say ill repute, but less than above board organizations have found where some limestone meets up against the tunnel and then found like bypasses so they could go around to avoid guards and smuggle things from around, just like pretty much every trade route or any place that goes from one place to another.
We found a few of those.
Yeah, and of course it's always more dangerous because it's not as maintained, reinforced, stable, that type of thing, and it's always like, high risk, high reward type of deal. Having said that, the question of where they would be cutting it off would be far closer to the foothills of the Razor Fang. There has never been a really solid border between the two nations because there hasn't had to be. It's been pretty ambiguous for a very long time because they've always been pretty cooperative. Haven't really had too many issues. I mean, some leaders, some Primarchs disagree with some Triumvirate members and yada, 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 but nothing that would ever make it that anyone feels like they're violating the sovereignty of either nation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So I don't think we should try to damage this tunnel because it was made by the dwarves to, connect them. So if we crack it, we could really hurt some things.
Yeah. Granted, it is dwarven made, so it's good.
Yeah, but we're coming at it with a purple worm.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. You're thinking about that, you're not even sure if that would be successful. This tunnel was meant to withstand attacks by sandworms.
So could we even get through it? But sandworms don't eat stone, so that may not be.
I also don't have an Ermgrim with a plasma blade, too. So.
But, we cut a hole in it, that loses stability.
Turn it to glass and shatter it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then fill everything with sand and totally be fucked.
Right. Little things.
Trapped at hourglass.
These are the days of our life.
Exactly.
I mean, there's definitely a way to go about it. I mean, if we did want to try to get into the tunnel past where the blockade was, we could try, but we could hit a large plane of sand and suffocate immediately. And if we did get there, we could then. The best way to do it would be to go under, because then there wouldn't be as much pressure to try to push the sand up. But again, I mean, who knows what has happened? I've never tried to pierce this thing, and there's no reason. There have been a couple ambushes, but from other pale dwarves that have tried to bandit certain trades and caravans, but the best way to do that is to find a pocket of limestone that is adjacent to the tunnel and use the smuggling routes and ambush that way, and then find a way to get from the limestone back to solid ground rather than sand. Sand is death here, especially in the underground. Although there is a lot of underground stuff there from long ago. I don't know too much about it, but
I guess the question is, do we want to try to stay in the tunnels or go above in the desert?
Kind of what I was saying. Instead of like going under the sand at all, we just
Yeah.
Trying to put like a hole in the side of the mountain kind of thing.
And fly.
I do like this idea because we
full
could
speed
fly.
ahead, just like slam the worm out into space.
We could do that. I could actually make the worm fly. We could all ride on the worm for like a good half an hour.
No, I mean just like barely make it out of the mountain, hop off the worm and let it go.
Who would
back
control the worm in the air?
Maybe we make a bridle for it. I don't know. How do you make a bridle for a worm?
as far as I know, the only official way to actually get into the channel is you have to go through Donderall.
Why do we have to go in the channel at all?
We don't.
You don't, but
We're just dealing with
could we
a bunch of
along
create
the
a-
sand.
Could we create a path higher up in the mountain and go out that way, though?
That's what I'm saying. Like
How we
walk
can
above
travel
it.
all the
Yeah.
same.
Right.
You
That's-
could walk above it, but then you'll be walking
How
the
many
treacherous
days?
lands of the Maw, which is very, very dangerous. It's also, I mean, good luck
I
making
mean,
sure
is
you
it any
survive.
more dangerous than the lands we've already walked through?
Is it any more?
Yes.
Is it any more dangerous?
Literally anything,
Undead.
anytime anything dies there, it comes back.
Is it any more dangerous than suffocating in sand?
No, I mean, that depends on which way you want to go. But I mean, like, depends on how you want to exit this mortal coil. But the only official way to get into the channel is through Donderall, which is why it's it's regulated quite well. So there's no like other way above ground to get into the channel unless you pass through, go down to Donderall. There are some entrances to the agreement from the western side that are above ground. They go through Donderall. So the people that do travel, there are caravans and people that do travel above ground. They go straight to Donderall. They don't even go into the channel. So the channel is just safer than traveling above ground because it's usually got guards. It doesn't have to deal with everything that's super, super dangerous and the harsh elements that are on the surface.
Yeah.
It's the usually there that when you talk about those guards, that's a little concerning.
Well,
No.
most likely, all the guard posts along the way that were mostly maintained by the Razorfang have probably been recalled, if what you say is true.
Yeah. Plus, who knows how many zealots are along the way, too. No.
No matter what you choose, you're probably gonna not. It's not gonna be easy.
Could be safe.
Yeah. One's just more dealing with people. The other is
As long as you're still set on doing
Dead
going
people.
this
Undead
way.
people.
right.
Well, would the zealots expect us to go overland?
I don't know.
I worry about how getting. Well, I guess they've taken down, right? Any of the defenses, so we could get into the city once we're there.
All right. There's one person that I can think of that might have some insight to it. We haven't tried contacting him before, but my Papa Micah used to be, a tradesman, basically. I know we've contacted my biological father, but we don't know where he is, and he might have another way. He's a dwarf, so he might know something that's more recent, too.
Or not
It'd
as
be good to know where he is in general too.
Yeah, I would like. Yeah.
Biological father is a dwarf?
No.
No.
biological.
No, my biological father is
Yeah, what
a
about it?
Maitan.
So you're half dwarf, half Maitan.
No,
By
no.
marriage.
Well, my mother passed away. My
Right.
biological mother, who was also a Maitan, passed away, and then my father remarried a dwarf. Yeah, Papa Micah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but he would know.
I think that might be our best bet at this point to know, give a better idea.
right.
First of all, how are we going to make sure he believes that I'm talking to him for you? This is step one that we always miss.
I know.
Every sending.
I feel like
Well,
I'm going crazy.
it might be a
I'm hearing
little
voice.
easier since she just didn't disappear from her family and they think that she's actually alive.
no,
no, she
actually, I
did.
did disappear from my
Oh,
family.
that's right, yeah.
Like, just one night I was, playing hide and seek, and then poof, gone.
Yeah,
We
Your
have
family
made
thought
it
they
really
lost you for
difficult
the
to
while.
talk to people who are not
thought you were
like
dead for a
with
while.
us. You realize that, right?
I know, not my fault. It's
Oh,
literally
totally my
stumbled
fault. Totally my fault.
stumbled into an ancient well. It's just like boy meets girl. It's a very common story. Maybe just telling maybe describing the knife that they have of his. And I pull out the pocket knife that I have that Papa Micah gave me. It's the butterfly knife that you see me do, just like mindlessly
Is
tricks
there
and stuff.
any sort of defining characteristic of it than me just say she has a butterfly knife?
It's a fidget spinner.
Yeah, I mean,
It is her fidget spinner.
it is my fidget spinner. I mean, his brand is right there, or some little mark, right? And you could also tell the story of how.
I only got 25 words.
Fine.
I can't go into a fun
yeah.
backstory.
So just to give you guys a little perspective too, yes, you can, if you want to break ground where there's still solid before there's sand, around the foothills, you can. Who's to know where what's going to be there when you break ground? It won't be sand if that's what you're trying to do. You will then have to walk through the foothills and then trek hundreds of miles of desert in order to get to Babas, if that's what you're trying to do. And the desert is a very desolate and dangerous place. Not to mention the curse of the wandering. Anything that perishes.
For once, it wasn't me.
I have to turn that mic off. Anything that perishes in the desert or that dies that was alive comes back undead.
Yeah, but we have somebody who likes to burn things.
Well, there's also gentle repose, which stops things from going undead. First.
What that does mean is that literally any creatures that have been there since the curse has been active for who knows how long, at least thousands of years, because the tales of the sovereign of sand that protected Babas with its blessing in order to prevent the curse of the wandering from affecting the jewel of the Maw was said to be there thousands of years ago. So meaning that at least for several millennia, at the very least, perhaps more, anything that was born, lived, and then died is still roaming the sands. Imagine if the populace of Earth, if anything that was born rather than dying and being interred in Earth or being cremated, continued to occupy space and walk the Earth as undead. It'd be a lot more stuff here, and it would be super, super, super crowded. So the older this planet, the older the Maw is, the older the curse is, the more and more dangerous the Maw becomes. Because once they're undead, they don't die of old age, they don't rot, they just keep walking. Sometimes they become buried or become dormant until disturbed, and then giant armies of as the thing, who knows, whether it be war parties that were perished, that killed each other, or anything, any skirmish, any time an old person dies, any time somebody's murdered, they come back, and they continue to wander the sands. So you could have things like undead sandworms. You could have things like undead armies. You could have things like whole undead towns that have just been wandering, like hordes, like sandstorms of just undead that move through the desert. Kind of like Z Nation, if you ever watched it, where they just kind of collect in hordes because they just move like massive, 2 state-wide storms that just trample everything in their path. Those are the types of things that could be encountering. And you know quite a bit of this because you're familiar with the Curse of the Wandering. Traveling above ground is, as far as you know, and you're quite familiar with this, is usually only recommended for those that really know what they're doing, and they know the safest route, and they know migration patterns of undead groups and masses and those types of things. if you're caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, you could be somewhere between a undead worm and a massive old ancient army that's still roaming the sands.
It's a really great place to visit, guys. And I'm just saying, it's
It's not
That's what I'm hearing.
even bugs, anything that's alive other than like plants. Well, some plants too, if they're conscious.
Undead mosquitoes.
Those bugs could start living again.
Look at all the undead things we have in our bag.
Right.
Swarms of undead scarabs and locusts. You know how many locusts are born every season that then die at the end of the season? That if they die within the maw, just stay there.
I'm
So
literally just a-
thousands of years of seasons of undead swarms of locusts.
I'm just more terrified of all the stuff he has in his bag that's dead.
You are familiar with how the Curse of the Wandering works. Unless it perishes at the moment that it perishes within the sands, within the
Okay.
maw, it does not come back.
right.
Okay.
So no worry about Tortesi coming back.
He has gentle repose on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that would also prevent those types of things. Yeah, a gentle repose is also. I mean, it's a second level spell. It's just something that not a lot of people can do. It is also something that you would know that one of the first things that
People do.
at least the clergy of like the Mauritian peoples learn how to do, because it is one of the things that helps keep people alive, especially in some of the in sections that are outside of Babas. There's almost always some sort of clergy member that knows that, even though it's still like, because magic is not that widespread. People know that magic exists, but not a whole lot of people. Like, you know, only a few percentage of people can actually do magic.
yeah.
That's what makes our group kind of rare, because we are all fucking casters.
The common man is not, the common person is not able to use magic. People can be taught magic. Some people can do it innately, but you know.
So I guess it depends on which way you guys would rather go. Do you want to go below ground and try to deal with the people, or go above ground and deal with the undead people, like we've talked about before, and things and bugs and whatnot? I feel okay doing either, but that's because I'm more used to it.
You've traveled above ground.
Yeah.
She has.
I'm
There are ways to do it. There are like roads and travel things. Granted, what's interesting about them is that the Mauritian peoples, especially the Mahitan, are gifted in a way where they are bonded with their families. And with that, they have like some sort of like, they have this just a small hint of genetic memory. And which enables them to, even though the dunes shift and the sands shift, they know which way they need to go. That's been passed down through generations in order to be safe. So like there are roads that go through, but they're not actually roads. You can't see them. They're tales that have been passed down through genetic memory and those types of things. So the safe way from Brackstar to Babas is known by other family members that have traveled that before, and then are able to take one. And once you've been taken that way, you can remember how to do it, especially if you're Mahitan, and teach your next generation how to do it. So, yeah, and the sands are always shifting. So what may be, familiarity isn't visual.
Yeah.
It's
There's no set roads.
like instinctual.
Maybe by the stars and stuff.
Yeah, and the stars, absolutely, yes.
The only problem is I've only traveled from Brackstar to almost Babas, but not from west to east before.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm okay with this big dog we're riding right now. It's a dog. It is a dog.
He's a very good dog.
But I don't necessarily want to deal with the undead bugs, because I've already been eaten by one undead bug. I really do not want to be eaten by another one.
That's fair.
There'll at least be sunshine, though. It's
Yes.
been a while.
And above ground,
I know.
I would
and sunshine
feel a
would
lot
be
better.
so nice. Don't know how you weird people do it.
The extreme end of sunshine. This is the most extreme sunshine you've ever been.
Yeah, you will be hot, Cole.
Yeah.
Just no matter what, you will be
Cole,
hot.
you're gonna burn like the bitches.
You will spend 10 minutes outside. You will be pink.
Oh, fuck, I don't have my fur anymore to cover. Shit.
Right, you're bald right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
That will help. That will help.
It does seem to be growing back very like a lot faster than it usually would. So like right now you're peach fuzzy. All around.
Can't
all
be
over.
any worse than the high emelet. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we could
What's
still.
wrong with the high amulet? He gave me tons of answers.
fuck you.
that a dig on me?
I mean, is
Oh, he gave me a lot of insight.
It was fucking hot in there, okay? Fuck off.
GM, would it be possible? Would I kind of know if there would be options for like caravans from Donderall at all? Like, would it be normal?
Not at the moment, given the blockade.
Right, but
And
There could be
and
some
the fact
shady
that there
stuff.
kind of been like there is an embargo like in effect right now. So if you're like talking about smuggling you across, possible, yeah. I mean like
The other option we potentially have is to go north and enter the mall that way, but I don't think that's a better idea necessarily.
no, because then we would have water.
The only thing that I was saying with that is we may be able to go north, because while this is blockaded, may not be blockaded to the north or south, and we may be able to find like a caravan that way, is what I was thinking.
it would also mean
More travel.
like a lot
Oh.
more travel. We're talking about thousands of miles of travel, which you've done.
Yeah,
before.
Cole does know that one. Yeah.
You've done before. It took you years.
I mean, yeah, Cole literally went from the top of the Razor Fang this way and then down to the bottom of the Razor Fang.
Yeah. What?
It's a long trip.
All right, what's everyone's vote? We going up or down?
Here's the map too that I'll give you guys,
Okay.
as you are familiar with. You guys are familiar with that map there. I can't make it quite big, but there I can make it big there. And as soon as I do it, it makes it small again. We'll do it this way then. Hey, there we go. So you can see here, if you guys want to like point on the map as to where it is that you intend you would like to like break through or attempt to try to find that spot, and that way you know if that's where you want to go, that type of thing. It would give me a better idea as to where you'd like to start your overland, unless you want to stay.
What about over by the Shimmer crevice and the Shimmer Lode? Would that be an area that we could break through differently? I'm just thinking of another area.
So Donderall is right here. This is where the mushroom farms that feed most of the Razor Fang here, other than the other stuff that they import, because they import quite a bit. This is the channel that goes through right here. I would say if your best guess would be more like the blockade might start somewhere around here, like around the beginnings of the channel, rather than throughout, because this is far more sand. This is the Babas Underground, and this is the Karasova Underground. You have this map, so you are aware of these types of things. Now, like if you wanted to break ground anywhere like along here before like hitting sand, that's a thing you could do, unless you want to stay underground.
I vote under.
Yeah, I'm good with under. Because lots of hordes undead. As much as I don't care about dealing with the undead.
See, the regular undead, I'm fine with that. I don't want to deal with them, but I can handle them better.
It's just you're worried about the bugs.
You weren't eaten. Fuck off.
That you know of.
Yikes, okay.
I feel like he has been eaten before.
Yeah.
I was
All
only
right.
swallowed by this dog we're riding.
Like yesterday.
You were swallowed by a dog. Different story. Cole really believes we're riding a dog. Like he has created that whole mental image in his head. We are riding a big ass dog. All right. That's how Cole was able to get on it.
We're riding Falcor.
You will have to,
Basically.
so you will have to give me an idea as to what your intention is and like what your plan is, because if you intend to continue through underground, if you intend to just go through underground and try to go through the sand, good luck. Like there's a very good chance that you could suffocate by just
Do we want to
breaking
try to
on
just
the
sneak
sand.
through Donderall?
I think we probably
Is that going to
can.
be safer than trying to figure any of this out?
We can try. Yeah. What if you, my story would pass because I'm Maitan. I could be like, oh, I want to go home. I'd be like, yeah, go. Right? But maybe the bean for you can get through. Maybe can you turn yourself to look like?
About that,
Yeah?
Problem log?
maybe. I can't do shit right now.
Well,
mean, you're
drink
talking.
a glass of water. Give yourself half an hour. You know, it should
I'll
come
heat it up
back.
first.
Or coffee, right? You know.
Hot water always helps.
I mean, no, I can shit. I just can't like.
Oh,
But like, so when bugbears reach a certain age, it's hard to like for certain things that used to work.
Right.
So they
right, that's
don't
why I
work.
said take a glass of water. Go find that little
There's-
pill that
there's a pill for
Aeon made you.
You're not that old though, right? I mean,
Well, I mean, I got aged and I got de-aged, and so I kind of like it's kind of.
oh,
It's a
you're
little
going through some
confusing.
time-space kind of like side effects. Okay.
He's malting.
When was last time you talked to a scoop?
Me forever ago. I never talked to Scoop.
When did he talk to Boots you last?
Like a couple days ago, I thought,
Yeah.
right?
It's the 37th, so
2 days ago.
34 days ago.
I had a weird dream last night, and
How could you tell?
I mean, it's every night, but this one was especially weird.
Was Gall doing something inappropriate?
He wasn't actually there,
Okay, that does
That's
make
a
it weird.
shocker.
Okay, I can totally see.
but
that
a
now.
scoop was, and he was making a really dumb fucking decision.
Okay, that tracks.
Why were you controlling
Yep.
a scoop?
I was just watching.
So you do that now?
You could just.
Well,
I didn't.
I didn't have a whole lot of choice in the matter.
I didn't realize a scoop was your type, bud.
No, but then there's also this blue fucker, this like fish fucker. It was doing like
You are watching.
I
a
don't
lot
know
of
if I want to
things.
hear more of your dream with this fish fucker.
I'm very concerned because you make things real in your dreams.
That's right.
Guillermo del Toro, take notes.
So it's a little worrisome when you have
But
some
I-
blue fucker in your dream.
but I think he already is real. I don't think it was just in my dream. I think there actually is a blue fish fucker.
How do you
Why-
know that he's a blue fish fucker?
I mean, in the
Like,
whole
were you
world.
watching him? Like, that's
No,
just.
a fucker who is a fish
Upon
man.
people's
Yeah,
intimate moments.
Did you ask him if he likes fish sticks?
Only the crunchy.
no, like he had gills. Like
Like Ankyaline's first form that we saw?
no, this is like a watery thing.
Like Ankyaline's first form that we saw?
Right.
Oh, yeah, actually.
That was a Triton.
Not
Yeah.
Triton. So kind of, but not really.
Similar.
So I mean, it was kind of like that. He was talking to the same thing that a scoop was talking to, and that was in my dream. And I think it's that Y name.
Yuxglottal?
Yeah. Fuck.
Do I got to roll?
Did you say?
He didn't.
Did you say it out loud?
Yes,
I don't
he
know if
He
that's right,
did, but
Log
Log did not.
Argus did.
Okay. Argus, roll wisdom saving throw, please. Log, roll a charisma check for me.
23.
23. You feel dissonant whispers start to like curl the hair upon the back of the crown of your head. That'd be like start to drown out all the other sounds of all your other companions speaking, and it's giving you a bunch of contradicting information. You're trying to focus as to you're trying to hold the present in a moment, and trying to really grasp and maintain what is actually happening right now and a reality. And it's hard. Usually it kind of just comes naturally as a being, fourth dimensional being, just existing in a three-dimensional space, time being linear, but you're like losing the grasp on it's for moments like Eldritch Madness, where for a moment you see above and see it a different way, but it's so maddening, and you're like trying to hold on to the railing of pulling yourself back to what you know as a reality, and you're able to do so, but it feels very disorienting, and you stammer for a moment and stumble as you feel like you were being pulled out of your own mind. It was not comfy. this is the first time you've heard, I believe, the same dissonant whispers that he hears. It's almost comforting to you now.
I got a 22, by the way.
You got a 22? Okay. So this is actually really interesting because as you're getting pulled back and you see like Argus grab his forehead and like stumble for a moment, what is it that you do when he says that? Like, what's your reaction of being like, oh fuck, what do I do now?
Well, because last
try to
time it was
prevent
me
it.
who like got
Sure.
fucked up, and so I'm like waiting for me to get fucked up, basically.
Okay, like so you're in like a kind of like readying yourself, like
Right, like oh shit, like I'm about to, go comatose again. Is like her.
are you like readying yourself for like combat? Are you trying to defend yourself, like?
So defending myself.
Okay, defending yourself. Cool. Like I think you probably like grab the brooch for a moment, just instinctually, and you kind of like put yourself in a bit of a more stable stance to see, just hopefully what's happened. You do see that your copper bracelet weird thing is like humming and glowing more as you kind of take the stance and you set yourself into it, trying to brace yourself for whatever is to come. And as soon as you do that like jolt of movement and step into that position, there's a ray of light, not unlike like a hologram from like R2D2 or like a tractor beam that comes from, but it looks like a ray of moonlight, like ray tracing in a video game, where that it disseminates and it kind of almost drains your bracelet and shows onto a place that is very close to Argus at this moment, because you guys are close to each other and you're talking, as like almost like 3D printing with light, and materializing is this small like wolf pup that appears to glow slightly with moonlight, that sits or kind of like right in front of you and goes and reaches up in the air for something. You don't see it, but latches onto something that they're like and they're hanging for, and they're hanging, no longer touching the ground, as they're grabbing onto some sort of a invisible force that's like kind of whipping back and forth as they go. You ever see like a little dog that's grabbing onto something and it won't let go and it's just hanging there in the air, and it sometimes does that wiggle thing, and it's doing that. And before you feel like some sort of whiplash as it lets go, and the wolf acts like through just the motion and the whiplash of the force, kind of like takes a spin and a flip and lands on the ground all disoriented, and then stands up. In some way was like protecting you in a way. And you see what looks like Moonchild, but a young puppy, like a little wolf puppy. And the other thing is like they seem. Actually, no. Go ahead and roll an insight check for me.
It's a wisdom one too.
You said insight, right?
Yep.
6.
6. They seem more ethereal, and you can almost see in their form, dotting them, as if you can see a bunch of other types of animations where they do the outline of a creature of like Ursa Major and Ursa Minor of the constellations. You can see stars creating their form like a skeletal rubric, like scaffolding in their form as they're like translucent and ethereal. And they don't look like something that's been manifested by your patronic abilities, but more of your lineage. Something that's pure. That has been like purged of whatever influence that your patron is giving you. Something innocent, pure. Your inner wolf.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm not doing that again. No wonder you freaking take drugs.
You tell me.
Just don't say that name out loud. That's why he called it the wild thing, not the name.
Right.
There's a lot of whys.
You've
only
seen
one
what
that we
things
don't
like
say.
that have done to me and him, and you totally just are all like, yeah, I'm gonna say the name.
Can we say the other name? The one that's, a little more common?
The salty mistress.
Or the false
Or
wave?
false wave.
It's ultimate something else.
False wave, perhaps. Just mentally bracing myself in case something does come.
I try to pick up the puppy, even though it's see-through.
Yeah, you pick it up.
Try.
It's corporeal, It just looks ethereal, and you can see like the constellation, and the constellation is like that of the one that your bracelet represents. It's the same one that is actually on the tail of your mother.
Is that you? I'll take that as a yes.
I'll put it down. I'll pick it back up.
This little pup now.
Okay.
Yep.
But so basically, you can't do shit right now. You can't do
Obviously
things.
manifest Moonchild.
Right, but this is not our normal form or their normal form.
Inflict wounds.
Inflict wounds. You cast inflict wounds on him? You're still holding Moonchild?
No, I'm not actually going to do that.
You know what? I wouldn't blame you if you did.
That wouldn't be outside of the realm of normal.
I mean, you know, fuck, I said it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're holding Moonchild. You're like, huh? And you touch Cole, and you cast inflict wounds. There's a shining a blinding light of moonlight that exits your hand. That appears like you feel like you're getting 1,000 needles of like inoculation shots in your shoulder as hard, small, infinitesimal pieces of hard light pierce your skin, go into your veins, and start just like UV radiation curing the red blood cells throughout your veins as it just goes like, and you can see like some of the light is exiting the sides of where his like skin meets his eyeball, one of his ears, one of his nostrils, and like the side of his mouth. As that part like glows, it's like, ah, like he's one of those bosses from those old anime. It's like, no, as light comes from them as though they're about to burst from the inside. Go ahead and roll your spell on him.
You have to roll the hit first.
Yeah. And that misses.
Good.
That's a 2 on the die. So.
Were you trying to avoid it?
No, I wasn't.
So
Yeah, if you just reach out and touch me and I don't do anything.
Just roll the damage, yeah. Because all you have to do is touch him. Yeah.
It's not combat.
Yeah.
It was 23.
23. Cole, you take 23 points of radiant damage.
You should. Radiant damage. It's normally necrotic.
Interesting.
When did you become holy?
Well, have you seen my eye?
As you do that, like Moonchild is like
I didn't think more holes.
and growling and like and like every time they bark, there's like this like solar flare.
I thought you said you couldn't do shit.
Yeah.
The fuck, Log?
This morning I tried and I couldn't do shit. But
I told you, glass of water, half an hour.
I didn't do any of those things.
You see along Cole's face, he's like severely sunburned, and like along the wrist of like
Looks
that
good on
side.
you.
Try turning yourself into some of those weird looking, humans that you normally do.
But like,
With
do
the
it.
dog.
Do it with the moon energy.
Yeah.
With the moon energy.
Do it with the moon energy.
Yeah, turn yourself into like Pilgrim or something like that.
How would Dreamland do it?
Would you, Bill
Hader.
Hader? You, there's this kind of Star Trek transport like shimmer, but it's like
feelings on Bill
moonlight
Hader.
crystals that kind of like go across before they become Bill Hader. But it's like a very Lahg has this penchant for picking personas, illusory personas that are, in a word, gnarly, or just weathered, and not of like Western beauty standard type of deal. But this one,
Word
but it's
Cole uses is
the illusion is
busted.
like so like clean. Like Bill Hader has a picture day today, and they make sure they get their hair cut, and they did like a detox stone thing and suction cup, and they're about to do like some sort of Olympic sport, so they make sure they're all good and they're taking their supplements and like they had like a laser acne treatment, like that whole thing. Looks like a clean, nice, as good as Bill Hader can look. Hair slicked back on one side. Does Bill Hader have hair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're cleaner than normal. I mean, you clean up
I
nicely
don't think
this
you've
time.
ever been this clean as long as I've known you.
I mean, it must be the puppy.
The puppy does like do the whole like shake thing as you try to cast the spell, and as they shake, it kind of like shakes off your current form in that shimmer, and you become the new thing.
So yeah, this is kind of different.
Yes.
You don't look like Dirt's your best friend anymore, Log.
Right.
Wait, I need to check something real quick.
Okay.
I take my boot off.
Take your boot off. It's still stone,
What the fuck is that?
Yeah,
or whatever it is.
that kind of just
You're
appeared.
illusioned. How would you know?
Well,
You could feel it still,
okay.
but
Sorry.
yeah, you wouldn't be able to see it.
Sorry.
I guess. Yeah.
Well, so I won't say anything then.
Okay.
Was there a pebble in your shoe or something? Like what?
There was a stone, there's a stone in my shoe.
Okay.
So
Nice.
Yeah.
Very.
Chef's kiss there.
Good soup.
I'll put it
Okay.
back on.
So it was bugging me. So I just want to, yeah.
Was that the problem? Like why you couldn't get your magic to work earlier?
Maybe that's what it was. I just,
Okay.
Okay. So it was a weird dream. It kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Okay, I get
What
the
does your
deep.
new blast look like?
Yeah, come on.
Cool.
Or
Trying to get something.
you're hungry up a daughter.
Hit that column over there. Do it.
This is gonna be interesting.
So I'll blast a column.
Guess you want to dance in a cloud of daggers.
Sure, you shoot what would be your Eldritch Blast, and this kind of like wispy, almost like will-o-wisp looking like, rather than doing kind of like the dark side light vision where it goes like, it makes our light hard angles, and it just kind of like, and it's like purple with all that kind of like stuff behind it, and bubbling vapor that goes behind it in those spirals. Instead of it's more of like a light orb that gracefully and passes through the air, that moves quite fast but in a beautiful concentric spiral pattern before it disperses upon the wall.
Did I just teach you augury, or do you know any of the other ones?
I think just augury.
Okay.
I check on Tweg.
Tweg is... that is a good question.
Because who would you talk to?
Right.
Right.
Tweg doesn't look black and ichor and lopsided anymore. You remove anything, and from what there, it looks like there's a small mechanical spider, clockwork, but a bunch of mechanisms that look far smaller than anything that you've seen Zemdak made. It looks super, super complex. We're talking about something that is, whatever it is, you wouldn't probably be able to recognize that, but it does look very Magitech or some types of thing, like very, very, very technical, very small pieces, even more complicated than the tweeter that she was making back in Steercrag.
Well, this is different. You still afraid of him? Like that?
Zemdek, you want to roll a tinkering check for
better.
me as you see this thing?
He's also really tiny like this, too.
That's true.
Journey. That was.
I would say this be intelligence.
Still an
ones.
18.
18. This looks like groundbreaking technology. You've never seen sprockets gears this small, even on small clocks. This is something that is looking. It almost looks like it's being propelled under its own energy. You're kind of just looking around. Even after it, it's so smooth. There's no jagged parts. You don't see any bolts. It looks clockwork or some type of steampunk thing, but it's just so advanced. Some of the parts on its outside that you can tell look like pieces of mechanical origin that might hold plates in way don't look like they're functional as much as they are ornate and decorational, just to make it look as if it doesn't need those bits because it's so high tech. It's beyond anything you've ever seen before as far as the level of technology. You're looking at this thing and you see that's alive. That's something that's a machine that is alive. It is so complicated and complex that it is almost akin to how complex the synaptic pathways of a brain could be. It is like it's really striding the line between where you consider something that is mechanical to be alive. It does kind of remind you of the Warforged a little bit, or I'm sorry, the Zektect people. The Zektect people, as far as that is, but you do know that the Zektech people had to have souls of volunteers put into their platforms in order to be like that, and that's how they solved that issue of needing like brains that were made. And if you guys ever watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, that episode where Data was making his daughter, and his daughter's brain, he couldn't figure it out too much, and his daughter's brain became like flowers of Algernon and fall apart, and he was trying to move really, really quickly to rebuild the synaptic pathways. They solved the problem with the Zektech by putting the souls of volunteers into those platforms, but not technologically. This looks like it was solved with science and technology, and it is the most advanced technology you've ever seen, especially because of how small it is. It's also beautiful. It's ornate. It's got this gorgeous like view of a scarab on the outside. It looks like it's actually have some things hanging from it, like some beads of like cogs and gears that look just ornate, as if it had like a fashion. It's not just fully mechanical and practical. I also want... Well, no, I'm going to leave that to you guys to figure out, if you guys remember.
I don't believe this is Lahg anymore.
I mean, I know I don't look the same, but, you know.
You never look the same. That's not part of it.
I said it was a weird dream. I think I've seen more of that stone that the idol was made out of.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's part of whatever this entity is. It's like, it's how it's contained. And now there's more of it in me. If that makes any sense.
Do you need to get it out of you?
So it's an infection. There's medicine for that.
You have medicine?
If it's an infection.
I mean, maybe Ankyline has something like that for that. He's
Don't you just
smarter than
burn
we
it
are.
out?
Yes, you just burn it out.
I thought you just burned out infections.
We've tried that once before. I don't know if it worked.
That's what you do if you worship Kosuth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who?
Oh yeah, fire god. Forgot we renamed him.
Primeval flame. So you can do shit.
But it's
That
weird.
was a whole tangent we went on. Where are we going?
Right.
So yeah, so I can turn into something.
A Maitan. Okay, cool. So, sorry. Wow. But it was a good tangent. All right, so I get in because I am the way I am. You get in because of the bean. You can turn into something. Maybe can you three be invisible or something?
Can we just be your
Brother?
guards?
That's what I was thinking. Bodyguards,
Bodyguards. Try
hired
that.
guards for Child of the Maw going back
Yeah.
to.
That could be your half brother.
That's true. Let's say you're from. Yeah, we could try that. We can do it.
Or is that a stepbrother?
Stepbrother.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, whatever.
Either way, would you rather be a stepbrother or a half brother?
I wouldn't care.
Okay.
Traveling tinker
Related
who's
is all
just
that matters.
along for the ride,
Yeah.
getting out of the triumvirate before they lock all the doors.
Right. And of course, Eleazar being
not
bodyguard for
off-brand, yeah.
hire.
It's not outside the norm. Traveling mercenary, traveling tinker, whatever you want to be.
Oh, I'm just gonna be
Bard,
machete.
You're telling
going
us to
back
be
home.
ourselves.
You guys got lucky
Yeah.
with the party for compilation.
And then Ermgrim, I guess you can just be invisible, right? Like, because it would be a little odd for you.
I'm not coming with you.
Oh,
I said I was going back home to see what was going on there.
that's fair.
True.
That's true. I just was being hopeful after all these time. All right.
I mean, what I heard while you guys were doing all your stately stuff is that there's not much left.
So sorry.
But can't say I was too keen on all the people that were there anyway.
I would
See
still
what I
want
can
to get a
find.
brand.
I'm sorry?
You know, your brand of not letting people spy on you.
Yeah?
So if you find one of those, make sure you hold on to it.
You want one?
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a while.
Yeah.
Need some terrazine.
Right, but you're going back home.
I can grab some, hopefully, if it's still there.
Just something to keep in mind.
I like a fresh start, maybe. Who knows who's ruling it, if it's still ruling, what's left. But knowing what we know now, it doesn't make sense for these squabbles to be going on. We've got more important things to worry about. But I don't know who's going to listen to me. I'll see what support I can gather.
I think it's time for me to teach you sending.
He's an okay teacher.
Okay, why don't we do this on the road, yeah?
Yeah. All right. So we'll go below ground and just pretend we're who we are anyway, and just keep going.
I mean, we're not really pretending.
It's a little.
You're
it's like
going
a
home.
Yeah.
I have a story that I'm
I mean,
writing.
I actually am going to be pretending.
We're telling our story in a way that's the least suspicious.
Well,
Right.
we're not lying, at least.
Right.
So I just turned to Machete.
This will be very confusing.
Yeah, see, it's like a mirror. It's like she must have like.
Hey, they would expect you to have a twin with you.
That is.
Do you have your own memories of childhood, or do you just have Machete's memories of childhood?
I have my own distinct memories.
But how would you know if
Have
you
you
put him in?
confirmed that?
You guys have compared memories?
I've seen this play called Blade Runner. And like,
Yeah.
you know, like they might have like put him in or something.
I've seen
Oh,
that too. That's
weird.
the plan that we
Okay.
show little children so they don't run with blades. Did
You know,
you watch that
that's
recently,
dumb.
Log?
my
was a
sister
long time
has
ago.
this imaginary friend. So
Yeah. But you actually met Machete. Like, she's real, you know, just saying. Also.
I don't know. We went through a weird time warp thing.
Well,
Who knows what happened?
And I'm
in
just
our
gonna
heads.
say that. What's his face has people that has copies of him everywhere. How are you not one of them?
You all are paranoid.
Have you seen what we've seen?
Yes.
we've just learned to question everything.
It's fair, but like,
And your sister is
If you don't
an
question
animagus.
everything, how are you going to win your arguments with the universe?
it's fine. It's fine. I just, like, guys, I'm already crazy. You're just making me more crazy with thinking about these things. But we can, you know what? We'll go. You can talk to her. She's a real person, you know.
We have talked with her.
I know, but like, we were
an-
saying we went through a time-space thing, and like,
I've
well,
messaged her plenty of times.
okay, all right.
She's an animagine. Like, let's
Yeah.
just say her first project wasn't building her imaginary friend a body.
Or her passed away twin.
That was a mirror of herself.
I'm Argus. You're gonna have to ask my dad some really tough questions. Some really tough
I
questions.
mean, yeah. I don't have to worry about some soul searching here.
See, and you
But
thought
like-
Never had a sister.
But like,
Gaslighting the shit out of her right now.
but also like, but we're always born with twins. I don't get this. This is unless we aren't. Everything's an
Just question
imagine.
Unless
God.
you were, and you have been reincarnated.
Okay, we have. Well, we did kind of reincarnate me. You brought me
Right.
back.
I have touched your soul.
maybe that wasn't the first time.
I don't know who I am anymore. I'm going to just like be a little quiet for the rest of the day and just do some soul searching. But yeah, if we can move forward. And worst case scenario,
We've all been there. I found out that I'm
So-
literally just a part of a god that's supposed to eventually turn into one.
it's no big deal, right?
So
All right.
who am I?
Are we all just figments of somebody's imagination anyway? Like, you know.
And I'm not even a full
Based,
figment. I'm a
based
piece.
on
Right.
the thing that went into my head, I'm pretty sure we are.
I'm a figment in my own imagination.
True.
How? Yeah. And you have another.
And there's
Okay.
two
I'm
of
a
me.
figment of your imagination.
Right.
It's your essence.
Are you like the only sane one? But
I'm
you had
real.
worms.
I mean, he has brought me and Zemdak into his dreams before. Maybe Misheni brought you out of hers.
I don't think I'm a gnome anymore. I'm real. I know that much.
I'm a real boy.
Right. All right. So
I'm a magic mushroom in the shape of a gnome.
besides this existential,
Hello, gnomes. I am a fellow gnome.
besides
I
this,
do gnome things.
besides this existential query, and I'm just like holding Lammy real tight. Are we ready to continue traveling underground and prepare to be interrogated? You all know, like, you've been listening about me talk about the religion, etc. In case there's questions about not this blockade, but the next blockade.
I have questions. How do you put souls in the jars?
So, and then I go into an explanation for that.
This is actually a very. Can you roll a history check for me? Because
Yeah.
this is actually a very interesting conversation that. Yeah, this is actually important.
You asked about if I had religious questions.
Yeah, there's like canoptic.
Are you fucking
jars,
kidding me?
canoptic jars.
You go into a wrong explanation.
9, because I rolled a nat 1.
So, that was more of your sister's purview, just because that was something that she probably studied.
Well, but it's
knowing-
weird because I'm actually the religious one.
Yes, but the canopic jars are not part of the actual religion of the Sovereign of Sand. That's not. It was not a religious thing. It was an animagin thing.
Interesting.
It was something that was used not because they believed of yada yada yada. They could put the forget ancient Egyptian stuff because that's not what that is. It was preserving parts of your loved ones or parts of specific types of creatures or pieces of those that gave certain advantages to be used in later experiments to then create amalgamations of perhaps being able to bring so that a piece of your loved one could then live on to give someone else life. For example, like an organ donor, or being able to there are rumors or mythic tales of that having to do, and that being that animagin of passing down pieces onto other generations, having something to do with how the Ma'ayitan developed their generational memory. And things like that. There are parts that having to do with how they develop things like their now racial dim light that they can see in small areas. It is this types of aided evolution and catalytic evolution through animagin. And some had mutations that were naturally occurring that kept in jars to be used when they knew more about them so they could use them later on. It was not a religious thing. It was a science thing. Now, not necessarily unfortunately, just as it so happens, serendipitously, the animagin, although it is a science, is still part of the Sovereign of Sand type of religion, as far as because part of that is to better yourself in the best way you know how. So there are definitely roots of the animagin that stem from that bettering yourself and trying to evolve yourself to the point where the extreme nature of the maw is less of a deleterious event upon those that live there, and that's why the animagin started and a lot of things. So there was a time, especially in your lifetime, where the animagin and the religious sect of people worked hand in hand and tied rather together. And then there was over time, especially more currently, that there started to be more of a schism of that and started to view each other as different opposite sides of the same coin and maybe perhaps different forces. But there are definitely old texts, especially things that you have studied, and your sister even more so, where they were one institution at one point. They were together. But the canopic, or I want to stop mentioning is that because it's more Egyptian.
The soul
it's
jars,
not.
let's call them
Yeah,
that.
the soul jars. There were parts of matter, of biological material, that was kept for the animagin purposes. As far as soul is concerned, because animagin is a mixture of science and magic, they were able to extract more metaphysical pieces from people, including perhaps portions of souls. But that is either highly guarded information or just myths or other types of stuff. And that could also maybe be something that contributed to the more religious peoples being like, that's sacrilege, you shouldn't be doing that. And there's probably a lot more nuance there than you are entirely aware of or know about. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you don't really know how to put a soul in a jar.
No, but do I know that explanation to at least
Yeah, I
tell
would say
Argus?
you would know that stuff because, yes, you knew your sister was alive at one point. You took some research in doing this. This is something that you were raised to learn. Yes, you know about the anima jinn doing these things with these types of jars. As far as souls, because I know how it relates more to your soul forging, it makes sense for there to be possibly some sort of tie to what the anima jinn or the people of the Maw in general discovered when it came to extricating souls from individuals. Your instinct is perhaps maybe they were the first people to do it because of how ancient their civilization is and of how you have found specks of their ancient civilization in places beyond the Maw. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know specifics of how exactly they do it. Like, I can't give you a recipe, but that's
even
the
with the
basic.
6, like this is stuff that's
9.
9, right? It doesn't really matter because this is you're all decently, you're very intelligent. Like these are things that within reason, and you know the stories of what has happened and what you've been raised with. These all make sense, and making those connections aren't difficult to do. As far as the actual nuance and the details concerning them, fuck if you guys know.
Yeah. Maybe my sister would know a little bit more the specifics, but
Okay. What do we need to focus on for these zealots to try to... Is the fact that we're just not Maitan going to kill us in general?
I don't think so. I mean, overall, there's
quite
so many people.
other races in the Maw other than the Maitan. They're just
think
the
zealots go
Maitan are just
crazy,
more
who
of an
knows?
insular people. They don't
That's
travel as much.
That's why I'm saying no to religion, because that's what they will ask you guys for, and not necessarily
Belief in the God
your
Emperor is the God.
utmost. Yeah. Yeah.
He is the protector of the Maw and
Do they believe any
The
other
world.
gods exist?
the world.
No.
Okay. What about the primevals?
No. I don't think so. Anyway, right? They wouldn't have. They would
If-
see them
if
as
at all
like
in the
fairy
script-
tales or something,
Yeah,
right?
if at all in the scripture, it was far more ambiguous as to how they were if at anything, they would reference
Be like
them
extensions of him
extension
or
of
something.
well, not necessarily extension of him, but a time of chaos of which he brought order. If that makes more sense. Like maybe they were recognized as existing, but then it was like it was
caged
anarchy and
Yeah.
became a
Then
Out
he
of the
brought order.
chaos.
out of the
Yeah.
chaos came the Sovereign of Sand to bring order.
Gotcha.
So
The God Emperor and the Sovereign of Sand is keywords we need to use.
Yeah.
yeah.
They have a lot of aliases. The Sovereign of Sand is one of the more, I'll say, vernacular term for the God Emperor, as you've been calling them, and as I've called them before. Something that's more, if you mention them that while you're there, would be more of how they refer to them, especially in the Maitan language.
Yeah, I can teach you how to say it exactly in Maitan too, if you guys
How
need.
much Maitan do you think we need to know?
Know your basic manners. I mean, it's like traveling to another,
Is there
Where's the
anything
bathroom?
specific?
Right. I want to make it clear, guys.
Donde está la biblioteca?
Although
Yep, exactly. That one's always really good.
Where's the library? Actually, that's a really. So I want to make it also very clear
The
that
better one is what is the library bathroom?
this isn't a like they're the only race of people that are here. That's not how it is. It really, really, really isn't. The boss is a capital just like every other capital. There's a lot of other types of people here. There's gold dwarves or sun dwarves as they sometimes or like bright dwarves, or people that are dwarves that have lived more time above ground and have worked and have been more adapted over who knows how many millennia to be in this type of temperate climate. There's a bunch of different types of people. People from all the world are still here. It's just that they are the majority of the populace here. It doesn't mean that there's just them. It also they're not. Xenophobic when it comes to that. They're just insular. Now, recent changes, who knows? But the religion never centered around the Mai. One of the tenets of the religion was never the Maitan people are the most sacred people. That was never a thing. It really wasn't a racial thing. It never was. It was just you live here and you have proven that you can find harmony with nature even in these most extreme conditions. Therefore, the gift is yours. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if you can prove that you can survive here, then you are welcome to bask in the gift that the Sovereign of Sand gave us.
But it seems like these zealots have just changed that kind of.
Yeah,
Right.
like, granted, these are fundamentalist
Yeah.
zealots as far as you have heard. And as far as you know, there are no tenets in there that are racially based. Like, it's not like only these people exist. This isn't like a genocide as far as when it comes to race thing, as far as you can understand this. Okay. So your race going into this, and this is something that you keenly are aware of because you're one of the more, you're more one of the religious ones, correct? You're more religious than your sister.
I'm more religious than my sister.
So you know more
but
about this. Like, that was never a thing. Honestly, Babas was one of those places that doesn't matter who you were. People walked in, and as long as you got here, they were just like, "Oh, okay, respect. You were able to get here."
Yeah.
You know, so that's it. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's welcome. Doesn't really matter. Granted, who knows? But again, like I can't stress enough, one of the fundamental tenets was never about race. It was never about keeping other people out. So I don't think that's something that you guys are going to be a hurdle for you as far as what you look like and what you are as people.
Is there any sort of
Like special greetings or gestures or something like that we need to do when we're like meeting somebody for the first time? Especially somebody who's very religious.
Yeah. I mean, you go. And then like a little list too, just in case.
So there is a sign where it's like the sun in the sky, and then you just kind of like pull it out, and then you just bow, that type of thing, where you just do that. If you're meeting a member of the clergy, especially. Granted, that was something that you only did to people that like very, very polite to peoples of the clergy.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on now?
But-
Is flipping someone off the same in both?
Would it be offensive if
Yes.
at the end I lit my hands on fire?
No, it'd be a cool party trick.
the burning of the sun and bringing it into
Right.
your center?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, don't do
So
this
yeah,
part,
do-
guys. Don't do this part.
so
That
if I
was
do
just
that
fucking
while
with you. But
Because another
I
name
had a
for the
feeling.
Yeah.
Existential crisis.
I know. Well, you all, yeah.
Maybe Sam's,
Remember, she actually hasn't been here before.
It's true. I
So-
have not.
for the
Just
religion, is there any
studying
sort
from
of
books.
like baptism? Like the true believers go through a ceremony of some kind?
You bathe in the sand.
kind of like Burning Man, where you do a dust bath. There are things like that. It's mostly
Bury yourself in the
ceremonial.
sand and you dig yourself out.
Not
Kind
quite.
of a new,
It's more like a bird
new
dust
believer.
bath.
Yeah, more bird dust bath. Random voice
Then
that's
so
in
there
the-
are the one other alias that you know of the Sovereign of Sand is also called the Soul Sovereign, the Sun Sovereign. The Soul Sovereign is like the way they would reference in them, and the or the God Emperor or those types of things. It was someone a long, long time ago that was able to then gift these people to protect them within the jewel of the Maw, the Babas, from the curse of the Wandering. Now nobody really knows, or at least nobody that you know, or anything that wasn't involved in any of the scripture, where the curse of the Wandering came from, why it had to be protected from, or what this actually source sovereign was, whether they were Maitan or anything else. Nobody really knows. All they know is that they did something to help us, and it has allowed our people to thrive. So we owe everything to them.
So we believe they created the curse to create the healing so they could get power.
It makes sense
Yes.
that Argus might think, yes,
create the solution. You know, create the
create the problem
problems
and
so you
sell the
can-
cure.
Sounds
So
very conclavish, right?
That's yeah. I mean, it's been around for a long time,
The
which
conclave they believe is eternal.
it's yeah, same then. Yeah, I
Maybe we're going to where the conclave was founded before the elves took it over.
The Maitan have been everywhere, so
Yeah. I mean,
That's
It's
definitely
old
been down
catacombs.
south. We know that.
yeah,
all right. Well, let's go.
agreed.
So going to Babas, we're gonna try and talk our way through out the blockade, not in the blockade. So it should be
Right.
easier.
Easier. Worst case scenario, I can try
We're
to
gonna
vortex warp everybody.
Take the normal channel path into Babas.
And hey, who knows? The blockade, we may
Yeah.
be fine
Or
leaving.
sorry.
They just may not let us
Wormed
back
down
through
the roll.
once we get
Through the
We
blockade.
have
to
abilities
Babas.
to get around. If we
Okay.
need to.
Yeah.
That's the plan right now.
Yeah.
So unless you guys want to try to like break through part of the channel between Donderall and the blockade.
I don't think so, because there's,
Armgrim
shifting
made it
sands.
sound
I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
like
I
a
think we're-
big problem to do that.
Yeah, I mean there are parts between that that don't have like the sand above, but it's still the same material. Like,
It's a
still-
gamble.
Right.
Yeah.
More than likely,
Yeah.
at some point, we'll hit a pocket that will get collapsed on.
You could. You have a
There's
less
good- there's
chance
good
in
odds
that.
that
Sorry,
it'll-
Who
yeah.
feels lucky?
I would say
And I'm not a gambler.
it's kind of a flip of the coin on that one. You might get lucky and find a limestone pocket that's nearby one of the tunnels to try to smuggle yourselves in there, but it's up to you. Now, going through Donderall, that means you'd have to do through most likely 2 blockades, because most likely there is a spot in Donderall to the entrance of the channel that's been like, we're done, nobody's going in here, there's no point in going in here. And then there's a blockade that's further down to deal with anybody that's still been in the channel, because sometimes it takes weeks to traverse it, especially
Right.
for slower caravans, that is still dealing with what's going on within the channel. And then at some point they might retreat, because this is a more of a recent thing that has happened. Does that make sense? So you could have to deal with twice as there's no easy way to go about this unless you guys come up with something, brilliant. There's not a
Even if we do, you'll find a roadblock for it.
okay.
Well, if we
Don't
come in
meta
from
me like that.
Under the channel.
The
then
be-
cut a hole and get out, and then I stone shade back in.
Honestly, the way to go that would have no roadblocks at all would just be go to traverse over land. It's
Right.
just very
No,
dangerous.
The roadblock there is the undead.
And it's not necessarily a roadblock, it's just dangerous. You're just very chance. Whereas the roadblocks are in, set positions. It's just dangerous. It's very, very
Technically, it might be a
dangerous.
lot safer inside a blockade tunnel.
Theoretically, it'd still be nice to have a game plan to get out of the tunnel, though, just in case. Like how would we, traverse thousands of feet of sand up in case shit goes down?
We don't go up, we go down. If we have to go somewhere. Because then we're underneath the channel, and it's...
You got that?
Just any freak out.
Yeah, you got that light prepared every day, buddy.
It's always prepared. It's literally a part of my
Okay,
domain.
thank you.
I don't prepare.
I
It's
will.
always there.
I appreciate that. Just might, one of these days I might actually lose it again for a second, but yeah.
Yeah.
I just in case, I don't know, you might change things out. I don't know.
I can't technically change that one. It's kind of a part of me.
Just keep the light coming, man. That's all.
The other thing I'll say is that the Babas is not the only bastion of civilization in the Maw. There are others, many scattered throughout, because it is a massive nation. It's huge. There's so much. It's a very, very vast desert, and there are others that are not protected by the blessing of the Soul Sovereign, by the curse of the Wandering, that have found other ways to protect themselves and continue to live for who knows how long, that live outside the bounds of that. I mean, Karasova is one of the richer places that lives just outside of Babas, that has a bunch of very opulent, rich individuals that just can hire enough people to deal with it, so it's not a fucking problem. And there are other, smaller sets. There's forts, there's civilizations, there's just desert communities, there's oases around every once in a while, there's wells that people have built, and it is full of a bunch of people, because a ton of people live here that have spread out throughout. And there are just very, large expanses of land, of, very harsh climate between these sets. So even if you do choose to go above land, there are chances that you may run into a couple of these along the way. It's not just entirely empty, and meaning that the ones that are still there have found ways to survive, even hordes of undead passing through them or over them or whatever. There are.
Did you say that there was one right above Donderall? The rich
Donderall
one?
is in the mountains.
Okay.
Is below the mountains. Yeah. So
Started with a K. I thought you said that was a
Karasova.
Karasova.
Karasova is just north of Babas.
Babas.
A couple miles north of Babas. And that is where a lot of the more opulent, super ultra rich people live that have like places that are
It's the suburb where all the rich people.
it is like an artificial oasis that they have created because they have enough resources to do so, and they have enough money to hire people to make sure that the Curse of the Wandering isn't a problem for them.
Until they get murdered in their sleep. Then that becomes a problem. All right, we don't know where Trisheni's dad is.
Nope.
So we should probably figure that out. But do we want to try to go in and bypass the town, or do we? Because I could totally, we could try to poke a hole in the bottom and then stone shape it back together.
I really don't want to get buried by sand.
But if we're under it,
Yeah. So here's the map again.
What happens if we hit a pocket of the sand that has one of those armies in it, though, too?
Here, let's just do this. Between Donderal, this is Donderal, which is in the mountains, and where the channel kind of begins, is still in the foothills and more solid ground. Now, Donderal has the only official entrance to the channel. And then once the channel starts to go into more Mauritian lands, then you're just like sand everywhere. Good luck. And that's why it's been built like that. So it can be a safe passage underground. It's one of the only safe passages that is direct, that actually has, a predictable linear passage underground. There is definitely a good stretch of quite a few miles between the center of Donderal and where the channel continues that is still solid ground before it enters sand, if that makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, if we can bypass the city, one of the blockades, perhaps. Say that's easier, but I say we don't chance the sand as much as possible.
Okay, let's go as far as we can before we hit sand and just pop into the tunnel.
Okay, cool.
All right,
I'm
we're
gonna-
feeling lucky.
All right, sounds like a plan. It'll probably be a couple more days to try to get there, because we're still moving many, many miles. But do want to try to burst up any spot. I mean, I could try to do my best to see what's going on, but
I say we try to find the side of the channel.
Whichever way's safer.
all right, okay, we can do that.
Like, try to put it back together.
Find foothill sand transition, and we travel along that
Great.
till we find the channel, and then
I'm not sure if crashing into it with the worm is going to be
No,
great.
no.
I
If
think
we
we
stop
probably
when we're at it,
find
we
the
cut a
cavern
hole.
adjacent. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can cut you away in, and then I'll
and then he
take the
can
worm
seal it
back.
shut.
And then we can seal it shut.
And
That
then
sounds good. I
And
can
then you
probably
don't
do
lose
that.
your ride to get back home too.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
definitely riding this guy all the way home for sure.
It's a good dog.
Sure.
and you still think with the
Yeah.
wibbly wobbly space thing that we've got going on, it's a couple of days.
Probably.
Okay.
Unless, things change. But I believe so. As long as we keep dipping in and out of the deep under and, underground, we can fold a little space along the way.
Maybe get there a little early, like when we first got the steel crag. That way, or a little faster.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Imagine it like a stone skipping, like when you ever skipped a stone across a river.
Yeah.
Imagine it like that. Every time you touch the space in between, it hops to the next point, and that's where you enter the other realm. And so when it hops again, that's where you enter the other realm. So you skip a bunch of space in between every time you transition, if you do it the right way.
Well, what are we standing around talking for?
All right, let's go. I say about 3 more days to probably get where we're going if we wanted to hit into it.
All right.
Great. So, along the travel, 3 more days. You guys, we're going to take a break here. If you guys can think during the break as to anything it is that you'd like to do along those 3 days, unless.
Well, I think the 42nd falls in there.
It
is-
does, yeah.
Yeah, so we were gonna need to roll.
Roll for
during-
the heart, sure,
Yeah,
yeah,
during that time.
and
I
everything
think we
else.
need to
But
invest if you want.
take your time during the break to think about what it is, if there's anything you wanted to do on the road, any type of prep,
That's about it.
because you guys are
Yeah.
going to have to still rest every night
Maybe
and
a soup, see
everything.
what
So if there's any
Aeon
work
made.
or
Yeah.
scroll or magic work or anything
Maybe
you'd like
just
to do,
machete to see
just
if
let me
that
know.
would work.
Okay, guys, we'll be back in a bit. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. Bye. 3, 2.